Hello, good evening, and welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and those who identify otherwise. I'm Oliver Anderson, Mr. One of Oliver, and behind the cameras, as always, Grandpa Chris Hill, as we head into the fourth round of the Sunday Championship, a round that I've been looking forward to a lot myself, as I'm a big enjoyer of Kyalami. Yes, we are racing at the virtual South African track tonight. The wonderful Kyalami racetrack, and for some reason we might have a track guide for you laying in the background, so you guys can enjoy the actual track layout as well. Maybe as much as I do, but we'll have to wait and see when we get the all clear in the background for that to pop up. Oh, we actually have it now. Going through Ingaf onto the start-finish straight, massive run into turn 1, which is technically just the kink. Turn 2 will be the actual turn 1, the kink we're coming up to here. Long pit lane exit as well, keeping the cars on the left-hand side coming out of that. Before we head into Crawford, the turn 2, the actual turn 1, very hard braking zone, about 100 meters before you go in. You can use the inside curbing, a lot of different lines through here. The Dukeski sweep 3 and 4. Important to get the car position correctly, so stay as far to the right as possible into barbecue that we just rounded. A lot of curb that is possible to be taken there. We often see 3 wide coming down into Sunset, this wonderful right hand corner. Different lines as well. Some people go off throttle, some people brake. No matter what, it's a very tricky corner. Clubhouse will be turn 7. It's a kind of a lot sharper than it looks from up here before we head into the S's of 8 and 9. Be very careful on the curbs here. Too much on the inside or outside, and you'll get the car jumping and running wide. This is one of the most usual places to check the track cuts on this track before we head up into Leo Cup 10 and 11. The almost 180 degree hairpin. I do think it actually goes a full 180 through the two curves here. We have difficult corners, well, important to get early on the throttle. Blind braking zone, heading down into Mineshaft. Turn 12, full throttle. You can go side by side full throttle, but not much more than that before we head into the crocodiles of 13 and 14. Big overtaking opportunity coming in here. We have seen that so many times through the years. Cheetah will be turn 15. Be very careful on that inside curb. That yellow sausage have a lot of cars out into the gravel trap over the years. Pit entry on the left before turn 16 of Ingef, the final corner at Kyalami. Again, super important to get the run out of Ingef to get the perfect run down the long start-finish straight. This track surely will be interesting for racing. A lot of good overtaking opportunities, a lot of places where you can go side by side. Wonderful track for motor racing, and 75 minutes of that this evening, which could potentially also open up the strategies a little bit, as we have seen in the past couple of seasons that different strategies have been able to win in these 75-minute races around here. Both the no tire change strategy, going as deep as possible and taking very little fuel, but also the pitting at the halfway point and taking tires. It's all a matter of setups, whether the drivers will choose to take the tires or not. A bit into the strategy as well. How hard do you push the car early on? But 2 different options that we'll probably see tonight. I wonder how the split will be. A track that have been famous in the over the a few years ago for the McLarens being horrendous around here, but then all of a sudden we saw McLarens performing very well in capable hands. So that might just have been the McLaren drivers that wasn't too sharp back then. But as we're heading into the later stages of the championship, we could potentially just go through the championship order with at least the top 5 in the pros and the AMs. It is actually Nick Vargas that leads the Pro Championship with a second and a first place of counted results on 48 points, with Samuel van Liebenstein behind on 45, 1 win, 1 third, before Sam Smith are in third position with 40 points. So good chances there for the top 3 to swap around in the last couple of races here. The final 2, Sam Smith with a 5th and a 1st of counting results. And then Patrick van der Linden in 4th with 34 points, and Dario Vianelli in 5th with 33 points. So bit of a kerfuffle there in the AM class. It is quite a bit tighter. Sander Vale leads the championship at the minute with 50 points to his name. First, second, and third are the results for him. And probably some sort of faster steps as well, because it's the exact same results for Fabio Kyalami in second, but he's only on 48 points. Raymond Lucian in third, all Ferrari top 3 in the AM class on 31. Crossland in 4th with 30 points, and then it looks like it's Greyes in 5th with 20 points, so a big gap from 1st to 5th in the AM class, but very, very tight at the top of the tables there. It'll be interesting to see how that will pan out. This is the calendar that we currently have up on the screen. We have been doing a Nürburgring, Nürburgring GP, Donnington Park, Barcelona. Now we're at Kyalami, and happy Star Wars Day to everyone out there. May the 4th be with you all. 75 minutes right before we finish the season on the 18th of May. In 2 weeks' time with a 60-minute race at COTA, the mighty circuit of the Americas. A track that's hated by some, loved by others. Interesting to see how that will pan out once we get there. But that's not until the 18th. Tonight we all focus on Kyalami and the mighty race that we are very likely to have on our hands. Big interest both in the Pro and the AM Championship. On Tuesday evenings, we started at Kyalami. That was a little bit of a preview of what we might see tonight before we headed to Misano and Mount Panorama last time out there. Zandvoort will be next up on the calendar. Coming up this Tuesday. I'll probably be around to commentate for that one as well, with the mighty crew of Grandpa Chris behind the cameras also there, so look forward to that. A lot of Dutch drivers taking home field advantage at Zandvoort. Difficult track to overtake. It will be very, very much so won or lost in qualifying. But surely that will be interesting to follow along. Moves are, of course, possible there, but you have to be a little bit extra brave when we go to Zandvoort, and those tires, they will be screaming of death coming into the later stages of that race. Before the Tuesday Championship finishes at Valencia with a 75-minute race. Track limits galore, we'll probably see when we head there. That is a difficult one to stay within the boundaries of the track. They have patched that a little bit since release, but it is still very easy to get a drive-through when we head there on the 20th of May. The only other championship we have running besides these two currently would be the Wednesday evening LMU Championship that just finished round 1 last Wednesday at Spa-Francorchamps, which you can go on YouTube and watch if you so want, please. Interesting race that was, with changeable conditions and a very, very, very tight finish in hypercars. Not to spoil anything, but that was crazy tight. Never seen anything like it before. Before they will head on to Monza on the 14th of May for the second round. That will be a track where traffic management will be the most important thing of all when we go racing there. Round 3 will be Sebring, the concrete track of them all. That will be difficult as well. Before Le Mans, of course, the 90-minute race on the 11th of June, and the final race at Bahrain Endurance Layer on the 25th the track that actually haven't been used for WEC for a long time, nor for Formula 1, which the track was originally extended for. We only had one race on the endurance layout in Formula 1, and that was pretty bad, we should say. Maybe the worst track that we have seen racing on for a long time. But the regular Bahrain, pretty good, nevertheless. That's basically what's going on the Simsport Racing International YouTube channel in the next couple of weeks, or at least for the rest of this season. As soon as the championships are over, we are probably heading in and looking at next seasons as well. As I think that we are shortly about to get live pictures from qualifying. It looks like the practice session have ended and they have rolled out on track maybe for qualifying already. Following the 9th placed car, the 77 Ferrari of Greyes. In the AM class, no one have started a timed lap as of yet, but the drivers, they are about to roll out on them. The first couple of cars have just crossed the start-finish line to get qualifying going. For those not used to qualifying or motor racing at all, qualifying are where the drivers go out on track to try and set the fastest possible single lap time that will determine the starting order for the main race. Which is why we are probably not going to see a lot of overtaking in qualifying, as it is quite important to have a bit of room around you to get no dirty air from the cars ahead of you. Some of the lower place drivers might find some advantages trying to stick it into the slipstream of the better drivers early on the lap. That's something that I used to do a lot in my early years on ACC, just to get that extra 10th. Not that it mattered a lot, but nevertheless, Nick Vargas, championship leader in the 1111 Mode 11 car, the green and yellow machine. One of the many Ferraris. Basically half of the field are Ferraris this evening, but still a few others out there as well. Second most selected manufacturer seems to be the Aston Martins. There are two of those. On board in the bottom right hand corner of Nick Vargas, and then the main screen of course, the cameras on track, controlled completely by Chris Hill himself. As Vargas gets a good run there. Not risking it too much on the curb, even though that he did go to the maximum width of the track. Down to the start-finish line he goes to put the first time on the board. Presumably we go there, 1:40.6. Immediately beaten by Rick De Moyne with a 1 minute 40.3. And a few others coming over the line as well. Two Hondas I just noticed, De Moyne and von Liebenstein, those up there leading the pack at the minute. The Hondas have been surprisingly quick around Kyalami before, so let's see if that trend continues with De Moyne and von Liebenstein after the initial runs here in qualifying, at least have the two fastest lap times. As the times are coming in on the board slowly, we do see it's quite close early on in qualifying at least. With von Liebenstein making his way around, I think that was Sunset that he just went through. Coming into the S's at least. Now with the sun setting in the background, or well, sun is rising in the background, we should say, as it is just 6 AM game time. Oh well, in game time. Because for some reason we are running American time in game. Matters not to any, of course, because no one pays much attention to that once you have started driving, and when the races are not longer than this, not too much of a problem, though the temperatures will be quite a bit lower than if this was 6 PM later on in the day, and that could potentially be something to get used to as the track is cold and a little bit less grip in the track, but slightly better for the engines, and some better lap times should presumably be seen due to that. Von Liebenstein across the line again. De Moyne improved on his best, I think, a little bit. Track is currently optimum. A little bit of wind though, 2 kilometers per hour. Not that it will be too much of a problem for the drivers, but if you know how to use the wind, then you could take advantage of it, knowing where you can brake later or where you'll have to brake a little bit sooner because you have tailwind. For instance, coming into turn 2 at the end of the main straight. Be a little bit of tailwind for the cars, but not so much it changes too drastically. But you could potentially take advantage of this, and we might see some drivers struggle to keep it within the track because of the wind. Sander Vale in the Ferrari. AM class leader in the championship and currently provisional AM pole. Overall 6th at the minute. As he goes wide there, that will definitely have invalidated this lap. But not something that I think he will improve if it didn't. But let's wait and see. He's still going. Maybe he have fuel in the car for one more lap. There are different strategies in qualifying, of course, that will play in. Some drivers will fuel up for the entire session and just go out and do laps. Others will do half of the session. And there might be some drivers that will just do for just a few laps, going out and then having 2 flying laps maybe, and then coming back in for fresh tires and a little bit of fuel. Remember, on ACC it is possible to RTG when driving, so that's why we might see some cars when they come across the start-finish line that they'll just pull over to the side and respawn to the pits. Ooh, that's risky. Big slide there, but a good save as well there for Sander Vale, who just pulls off the track and resets to the garage. We saw Schickerman there as well with a little bit of 4-wheel drift through Leo Cup, but now coming through Engaf and onto the start-finish straight. Oh, sorry, through Cheetah that was, and across the line he goes up into 7th position for the lone Porsche in the 911. One of the Dutch drivers out there on track tonight. A lot of Dutchies though. Not that it matters too much. These drivers are just something built differently for sprint racing, it seems. But Schickerman in the 911, a car that have gone through a few evolutions on ACC. We have seen, well, I think this is the 3rd evolution of the 911 on ACC. I think this is officially the 992 car, to be perfectly honest. But car spun out off there, not an issue for Schickerman, as he can just go full throttle through, no danger to him. As he come across, speaking of, Nick Vargas have improved himself up into 2nd position and taking that 2nd place on the starting grid. Provisionally, we have seen before, due to the way that the cars have to line up, that P2 actually sometimes starts a little bit ahead of P1 around Kyalami if P1 doesn't get perfectly into position on the start. But Schickerman coming through. Mine shafted into the crocodiles for Schickerman. Before Cheeto, let's see if he can nail this. Takes that grass. But very, very good there in the AstroTurf, using all of the available track. That looked really good. That's why I had a little bit of a slide before, but let's see. Down the start-finish straight we go and across the line. Slight improvement there for Schickerman, who overtakes Sander Vale and moves himself up into 6th position. Smeets in one of the 2 Aston Martins. Still on it for the hot lap, 10 minutes to go in qualifying, or just about, which marks the halfway point of the qualifying. More and more rubber are being put into the track, so lap times could potentially improve a little bit here nearing the halfway point. All of the drivers seems to be using the grass there and the entrance to Cheetah, just to get a little bit of rotation from the grass. Which could be risky in the race, because you do run the risk taking too much there, and you'll definitely go spinning before you head into Cheetah, and even risking the slow punctures of the tires. Sean Caesar, yes, we know it's not pronounced that, but that's how we choose to do so in the lone McLaren in this race, the 240. Had a good showing last time out. Let's see what he can do today. Currently sat in 10th. Ooh, using a lot of the grass there and all of the track. Currently sat in 10th though. Last of the pros, but he is improving. Across the line he goes, up into 9th, overtakes Cavaletto. And puts himself a little bit better on the starting grid. Kyalami in the 777 Ferrari. Coming up the track second in the AM class, both in points and in starting position at the minute. Let's see what he can do. Through Sunset, just touching that curb as most drivers will opt to do, not using all of the available AstroTurf into the S as we go. Looks good so far, just gets 2 wheels up, it's full throttle through here. Let's see, does he keep it on track? He does. This is the blind braking zone into Leo Cup. Gets it nicely, not all the way into the apex there, but does get good rotation and good acceleration out of Leo Cup. Into mine shaft we go. Down the hill and through. Before we head into the crocodiles, it's very good to see it from on board the cars. Not using all of the track available to him on the entrance to the crocodiles. Through Leo Cup we go. And into Ingef, the final corner of the track. Does Kyalami improve? Let's see, across the line we go. He does. Up into 10th for the Ferrari driver. Ferraris doesn't look too strong. Oh, that was of course cheating on Leo Cup, but the Ferraris doesn't look too strong this evening. Vargas best placed Ferrari, of course in the pro class, but taking out Vargas, who are battling for a championship. There are no Ferraris further up than 7th. Only one McLaren are within the middle of the Ferraris. Slots kiss. Across the line he went. Maybe to start a flying lap, the Hungarian driver. Think he's new to the championship as he goes into a turn 1. Rounding it looks good so far, not using off the track, but again, I wouldn't do either. Nicely through, taking the wide approach, I do like that. Touching the curb, using all of the exit available. Looks very, very solid so far on the lap. Into Sunset we go. Oof, that looks strong. Clubhouse. Again, very, very good lies from Kiss so far. The SS Patrick van der Linden have just joined the server and are currently set in 14th. He's a little bit on a rush to get out there on track and get a qualifying time set. The Audi driver. Again, he looks very, very solid with the racing lines. Does Slots Kiss. Down to Mineshaft we go. Through it as well into the crocodiles. Taking the full usage of the track. The touch of the curbs into Cheetah. Let's see how this goes. Very close to that sausage there, but again looks very, very solid. Could have maybe taken a little bit more speed through Cheetah, but I think that's the only thing from at least the TV cameras that I could see on that lap that wasn't perfect. And across the line he goes, no improvement though. But very, very solid driving, it looks like at least. Brian Scheckerman rounding the final corner. Does look to be improving, but will it be enough to snatch a position? No, not enough to snatch a position, but a slight improvement on the lap time though. Still in 6th position, with Odelman directly ahead of him lap time wise. He does need to find about 2/10 to catch up to Odelman. And that might not seem like a lot when I say 2/10, but if you have ever tried driving these cars yourself, you know how difficult it can be if you feel like a lap was good before. Then finding those extra 2/10 of a second, it means maximum pushing. And knowing where to push and how much you can actually push the car, because even though that you feel like you're pushing the car, it might actually be slower than just running it safely. I remember personally having a learning curve like that, going from the Audi and then having a single race with the with Rene van Dijkhuis and Rory Stewart before the team merger there in their Aston Martin and race, and it took me about half the endurance race to figure out that you didn't have to push the Aston Martin as much as you had to with the Audi to extract lap time. But after figuring that out, was about a second quicker in race pace in that race at Circuit de Catalunya. So that's something to keep in mind. Sometimes it's better just to be steady on the pace. Ottoman across the line. It is very, very tight in the top 5. Just about a quarter of a second splits the top 5 currently, and exactly the same lap times for the 2 top drivers, Rick De Moyne and Sim Smith, down to the thousandths. They are equal. The reason why De Moyne are ahead of Smith then are because that he put the lap time in before Sim Smith. Which is very, very interesting to see whether or not the De Moyne and Smith can improve just by a thousandth of a second. They could secure themselves the pole position. Nicola Cavaletto, we're following the SRT driver in the 94 Ferrari. Looks like Van der Linden left the server again for some reason with 3 minutes to go. If he's rejoining, he's definitely not getting a qualifying lap time in then. Well, he could potentially still, but he would only have about 1 shot to do so. Calvaletto rounding the top of the hill. The Leo Cup corner before heading into Mineshaft. Looks very nicely. Uses all of the inside curb. The Aston Martin can use a little bit more curb than some of the mid-engine cars, especially more than the McLaren can. And that might be, oh sorry, it's a Ferrari on board with, so I don't know why I'm speaking about Aston Martins. The Ferrari are also known to be somewhat nice on curbs for a mid-engine car. Not as good as the Astons, of course. Across the line he went, currently set in 11th position. Van der Linden back on the server. In 14th he does have time to go out on track, but he does have to start moving from that pit lane immediately if he wants to get a time in qualifying and not start from the back of the grid. He is out on track though. He will have about a gap of 10 seconds. That will be the difference. That will be 1 shot qualifying for Van der Linden when he gets around. Calvaletto around. He does have Ottelman behind him. Not close enough that will become any trouble for any of the 2 drivers. Nicola Calvaletto. Yeah, I remember, I think it was at Donnington where Calvaletto and Vianello, the 2 SRT drivers, they had a pretty fun battle between themselves, running close together. Maybe not battling as much as I might want to make it up my head, but they were running very close for a long time, showcasing good driving from the 2 Italians. Samuel van Liebenstein, currently set in 4th. Improving by enough to snatch away pole position if he can keep up pace for the rest of the lap, if he can keep that momentum going. Through Cheetah we go. Whoa, a little bit of a slide there, rear end sliding out. That could have lost him a bit of time. Coming into Ingef, and he bails out to start another lap, as we can see how he just takes that little bit extra run up to the line. So not an improvement that time around for Van Liebenstein. This will be his final attempt. Rick De Moyne are done with qualifying. Same goes for Vargas, Schegerman, Vianello, Greyes and Kiss. They do not have enough time to go back out on track and start a lap. Van der Linden will be rounding Ingef now, and he will start the one and only qualifying lap that he will get in the lone Audi. Considering that he's using an in-game livery, it's pretty decent, the one that he have gotten together on that car. Will that be the one-shot machine or the one-shot mystery? Let's wait and see. Patrick Van der Linden, at least, he will be the final driver to set a time in qualifying as well. Vale goes back to the pits, so he's not improving from 8th. That will be the best he will get out of the day. I wonder what's going through Van der Linden's mind, whether or not he's doing a full push, if he's taking it a little bit safe just to get a lap on the board. It could be a matter of starting position. Odelman done for qualifying in 5th. He will be, unless not taking it safe, Van der Linden. That definitely lost him a bit of time there, pushing with the Audi. Coming around through full throttle into Mineshaft before we head into the Crocodiles. Cheetah and Ingef to go for Van der Linden. He's the only driver not to set a lap time yet. Rounding the final corner, let's see if we can spot where he finishes before the graphic changes when he comes across the line. 14th it looks like. Strong qualifying. Quick reminder that we are having a moment of silence for the fallen soldiers of the war here at exactly 20 or 8 o'clock, which also fits in perfectly with our usual commercial break on the channel. So let's start that early and let's keep quiet for these from 8 o'clock till 2 minutes past for the victims of the war. as we are back from our 2 minutes of silence for the victims of the war. The drivers are slowly getting ready to go out on the formation lap. Von Liebenstein and Rick De Moyne and all Honda first row of the grid. Checkerman returns to the pits last second and starting from the pits it looks like. But all Honda front row. Sims meets Nick Vargas lines up on the second row. Alderman and should have been Checkerman on the third row. Vianello and Vale behind them on the fourth. Caesar and Kyalami on the fifth. Calvaletto and Gracia on the sixth. And Kiss and Patrick van der Linden lines up on the seventh row of the grid as the drivers have started the formation lap. Checkerman from the pits. This is the final chance for the drivers to adjust their strategies and getting everything ready before the race start. Good track temperatures of 20. Same goes for the ambient. Optimum conditions for racing. This will be also, this is when the drivers, they will try and get some heat into the tires and brakes. Some drivers like to weave a little bit to get it. Some drivers like to just use the brake systems on the cars to get some heat into the tires as well. Running with a foot on the brake are something that a lot of the drivers they will do. It's a little bit different how people how drivers they choose to warm up those tires and brakes. Some start early on the lap, others they wait until the final sector to get the heat up. It can be difficult to control, but a more optimum way, some say, to get the correct temperatures all around before race start. Remember, YouTube chat is open if you have questions for us in the commentary team about the Simsport Racing International community in general, or life matters. Whatever you like to get some opinions on, we are ready to answer everything within reason. On the YouTube chat, of course, and hit the like and subscribe button as well. Notification or the bell if you want notifications for when we go live, which is highly recommended as it's usually always pretty good racing that we see here on the channel. But Von Liebenstein and Rick De Moyne, the Honda teammates, we shouldn't say, as it's technically not teammates, but at least manufacturing mates, we could call them, from the front of the grid. Ooh, that's a very much parked Aston Martin there, and the formation app starts moving again, it looks like. I wonder what that was all about. Maybe a quick reset of some equipment, it could have been. I think that was Smeets or Alderman. I think it was Smeets, to be honest. As the drivers have lined up in a 2x2 formation to get the race started. Looks like a little bit of a gap there from Liebenstein and down to De Moyne. I don't know what's going on exactly there, but something strange seems to be happening between those. Oh, there we go. Maybe it was De Moyne who was fine. No, it is Von Liebenstein on the left-hand side. But we are about to get racing, ladies and gentlemen. So let's hear the engines as we are racing! Good start from both of the Hondas. Seems that they're keeping positions initially on the start. Sam Smeets challenging Nick Vargas into turn 1. Let's see how that goes. Vargas gets the initial run, but Smeets on the inside of 1. Keeps it going to Honda still side by side. Smeets makes a move up into third. Honda keeps position. Further down the grid, no major changes so far, at least it looks like. Maybe Vale have gone further behind. Let's see what happens when they come across the first timing line, and let's have a look. Yeah, Vale quite far down to 13th. Not the clean start there, but no yellows at least. And Vargas re-challenging for third. Just behind in the frames. Van der Linden up to 12, gained that position off of Vale and Checkerman starting from the pits, of course. Here we go, battle for third. Nick Vargas and Sam Smeets. Vargas all over the back of Smeets. A little bit of contact there, pushing Smeets into a little bit of a mistake. Archie-barchie there on the acceleration. Smeets cannot be too happy about that one, but Vargas takes possession up into third as they come into the braking zone at the end of the back straight. That would be the Crocodiles before we head into Cheetah. Let's see the first time through Cheetah. Does anyone go into the gravel trap? Ooh, it looks like one of the Hondas there have gone wide. That was von Liebenstein, I think. Von Liebenstein losing a position to Rick de Moyne, I should say, and about to lose another one here. Drag race between the Honda and the Ferrari. Do know the Honda is quite good at this, but the Ferrari does seem to have a little bit of pace. Vargas on the inside though into turn 1. Let's see what happens. Vargas challenging for second, side-by-side action. Vargas goes through into second. Good first lap for Nick Vargas. Moving up 2 spots already in the race. But let's see what happened. Alderman also dropping back into 9th. Not the greatest of starts from him either. Into sunset we go. Vargas running the wider line. Smeets and von Liebenstein duking it out behind. Smeets tries on the outside of von Liebenstein. He does get hang out to dry a little bit there. Von Liebenstein keeps third initially. As we are running through the S's. Up into Leo Cup we go, the blind braking zone. But let's see what pace Vargas has if he can catch up to Rick de Moyne, who already got a little bit of a gap there by avoiding the initial battling between the drivers just behind him. Yeah, pulled away by 1.4 seconds already. The rest of the field looks very, very tight indeed. Here's a little bit of a replay of what happened to Alderman. Through Cheetah we go, but let's see, does anything happen here? Gets a little bit of a tap there from behind from the McLaren. Oh, big contact with both the McLaren and the 777 Ferrari after the initial contact. Gets going again though. Definitely some damage on the 3 of those cars, but I don't think it's enough to warrant an early pit stop for anyone. Yellow flags further behind as well, but they have started moving again. Vargas still in second position. Here we go, Smeets and von Liebenstein. Seems a little bit closer, but Smeets not quite there yet to make the move on von Liebenstein as Smeets tries to push for it. And maybe pushing a little bit too much there as he goes onto the grass. Patrick van der Linden already up into 6th position. He's making great progress in this race. I wonder what could have been if he qualified further up the field. Or got here in time for qualifying, we should say. Next man up for him will be Calvaletto, the SRT driver in the Ferrari. That Audi looks rather quick. Calvaletto pushing everything he's got to try and keep van der Linden behind. He could be a dark horse for positions later on. I think that's Vianello that gone off and returned to the pits. I think that's the first retirement of the race then. Sure looks like it. As van der Linden still trying to put all the pressure on through Leverkusen. You can see how he's losing a little bit of traction there by taking the very inside line through. But full throttle as we go down through Mine Shaft and into the Crocodiles. Both drivers opting for the wide line. Next corner up will be Cheetah. Difficult corner, especially in that Audi that can be deadly. Looks to be saving it a little bit through, but Cheetah's one of those corners, if you risk it quite nicely, then you can gain so much time and set up the move down the first straight, down the main straight into Crawthorne. But van der Linden still all over the back of Calvaletto. Von Liebenstein with the fastest lap of the race. Just as a little side fact. He is helped by the slipstream of Nick Vargas, of course. A big scuffle further back the field. What's going on back here? Many cars with different lines. Hard to follow up what's really going on here. It's definitely Sander Vale and Kyalami. That's at least 2 of the drivers involved in this. Look at that train behind. Side-by-side action almost. No, it's just cameras. That's a little bit tricky there with distances between them, but look how close it is. It's from Kyalami, and I think that's all the way down to Season Alderman catching up to the back of this crew, or this group as well, becoming the caboose of this massive battle for position. Van der Linden made the move past Calvaleto while we were watching this, so Van der Linden is now unleashed to try and catch up to the top 4 in the race. But look at all this battling, it's Scheckerman here further back, both trying to attack and defend in the same time, with Greyas ahead and Caesar behind. That Porsche is right in the middle of all this Ferrari battling. Alderman behind, I think this is a challenging point for Alderman. I think Alderman would say that he's faster than these guys, but making the moves can be so difficult when you're in a train like this. Everyone have the advantage of slipstream, and the have to think about the Constantina effects when we go braking into the corners. Scheckerman looks to be slightly early on the front there, but long train of slipstreaming. This is where it gets difficult to overtake because you have to brake out of the toe, but the car ahead of you still have it. Let's see what's going on. Turn 1, Scheckerman trying for it. Alderman as well in the background. Scheckerman on the inside line, and he actually looks to have gotten the move done there on Greyas. Ooh, contact there. Scheckerman goes not off, but keeps it on track after a big sideways contact. Maintains position, and Caesar trying to take advantage of this as well. Now on the outside of Greyas into sunset, but backs out of it wisely, some would say. But Scheckerman takes position. Caesar gets a little bit caught wide there, so a challenge now from Alderman. It looks like we'll get the better run into the S's, but not the most optimum place to go for it. Not a good enough run anyways to really try for it. Greyas not making the most of the apexes there, which puts him under pressure from Caesar behind. Coming up into Leo Cup. Let's see, outside line from Caesar, and the McLaren goes in, makes the contact, but gets pushed wide due to that. That could open the door for Alderman in the drag race into the Crocodiles. Stream quality is a little bit low for me, so it's lagging a bit. That's why I'm not fully up to date with exactly what's happening. But Alderman not getting the move done on that one. Caesar maintains 11th position so far, with Alderman pushing extremely hard behind to try and get up there. Maybe a little bit too hard as he runs right through or wide through Cheetah. Now Greyas with not the most optimum line onto the start-finish straight, but I don't think Caesar is close enough to make the move into Crawford. We'll just have to wait and see, but he is closing the gap. It would be a dive and a half from this distance showing himself, but tucks in behind. Maybe just enough to spook out Greyas a little bit there, that he would have to keep half an eye on him. Further up the field though, Sebastian van Liebenstein on the attack on Nick Vargas in the battle for second position in the race, as he have caught up Des Moines with the fastest lap of the race and pulling away ever so slightly, but not so much really. It's roughly the same gap for the last 5 laps after he broke away from the battling group initially. Ooh, Greyas there, running slightly wide through sunset, allowing really for Alderman to catch up. No, sorry, for Sears to catch up, as Greyas went a little bit wide there. Alderman not having the pace that we expected from him in this race so far, not really looking to challenge for overtakes at this stage of the race. But let's see, Greyas goes wide there. Sears on the inside, side by side into the kink wheel, go into mine shaft. It is looks to be done, but remember that that Caesar will have the outside line on into the Crocodiles. Not the easiest to do. He'll try for the switchback. Alderman catching up a lot behind. Meanwhile, not getting it done. Greyas defends that massive drive there from Greyas to defend position in that situation. Through Cheetah we go. Ooh, a little bit wide there from Greyas, allowing Alderman on the outside. Will he get the better exit? It looks like it. While Sears is also on the line, where he do get a little bit of slipstream help from the drivers up ahead. And look at that, Alderman also coming up. Could it be a free wide into a Crawford? Looks like it, as Alderman goes to the inside. Let's see what happens. Greyas backs out of it. Alderman still on the inside, makes a double overtake into Crawford. It looks like, as Alderman goes through, big contact there, scuffling as Alderman goes wide into the wall, and ooh, Greyas almost losing it, but Sears manages to keep somewhat control of the car there. Alderman into the pits and looks to be retiring after big contact there sideways with Sears. That move looked very, very tight, but difficult place to go side by side as the lines merge together, and you get if you touch those curbs, you will get a little bit of a jump in the car. Difficult situation for all of the drivers there, but Sias maintains 10th position in the race with Greyas behind. Wonder if there's any notable damage. I remember that Caesar also had a little bit of damage from earlier on in the race, so it might stack up a bit as we go through the race. Both Des Moines and Smeets now with the fastest lap in the race, which means they are exactly equal on the fastest lap as we saw in qualifying as well from the two drivers at one point. Very, very tight indeed between them. Further up the field, Schickerman trying for the move on Kyalami. Running through Cheetah, Schickerman right up the rear of Kyalami. Into Engef we go, run into Crawford. Whether or not the Porsche have the top speed, we'll have to wait and see. This is a track where you can do setup-wise the two different things. Or you can actually go with all the three different variations. Both the low, medium and high downforce could be an option on this track. I think I personally will go for the low downforce setup on the cars. Schickerman on the inside makes a move. And looks like it happened as it also managed to get it stopped on the apex. It looks like that Porsche have massive brakes compared to the Ferrari. As Schickerman moves himself up into 7th position and can now start trying to hunt down Calvaletto in 6th. But a little bit of a gap up there it will be as he is still chased by Kyalami and Sander Vale behind. He have made a little bit of a hole as Kyalami will have to think more defensively towards Sander Vale than he will have to think offensively against Brian Schickerman at the minute. But let's see if they can catch back up to Schickerman as we do see that car seeming to be on rails, the Porsche. Going quickly there, using all of the track available, dropping 2 wheels onto the risky point where you could potentially pick up those slow punctures. Sander Vale, the back of this 3-car train, pushing forward as he will try and catch back up to Kyalami, who just seems to have been getting a little bit of a better run through Leo Cup as we go through Mineshaft and into the Crocodiles. Takes the wider line, but not hitting the apex. Still very close into Cheetah we go. This is where you can risk it all. Vale a little bit on the grass there. The entrance have to lift off more than Kyalami, which of course gives Kyalami a little bit of room there. Few meters Kyalami gained on that. As we can see, Vale really aggressively trying to go on the throttle to catch back up to Kyalami and challenge for that 8th position and the lead of the AM Championship. Remember, these two are the championship contenders, two leaders of the championship, first and second, 2 points between them overall. Further up the field, Sebastian van Liebenstein under severe pressure from Nick from Nick Vargas. Inside through Sunset, outside in the clubhouse, but not really there. As big slide there behind from Sim Smith, who just tries to stay within in attacking range of the two cars. They have dropped the Van der Linden by 11 seconds so they're not pressured from behind, but they have lost time to Rick Des Moines, who stays out of the battling and can just focus on his own race. He doesn't have to think about any of this as we see Vargas and Samuel van Liebenstein getting a little bit of a slide on 2 different places there through Leo Cup. Wow, that's intense driving from these two. Both of them attacking to the max. We do know that the Hondas are quite a bit worse for tire wear, and that could become the strategical part in this race. If Vargas can maintain the pressure on Van Liebenstein, we might end up seeing Van Liebenstein being forced into taking tires in the pits. Remember, in the 75-minute races, the only thing mandatory in the pit stops are fuel. The drivers can select themselves whether or not that they want to take the tires. We have seen the Honda struggling a bit for tire wear before. The Ferrari are usually pretty good at tire wear. But let's see what happens once we get into that part of the race. That could also be why Rick Des Moines are pulling away so far in the front. And that could potentially be the opening for Nick Vargas later on. But we'll have to wait for the pit stop round to see what will actually be going on there. But Vargas definitely also pushing his car further down the field. It is still the battle between Kyalami and Sander Vale in the blue and the green Ferraris in the small screen. Those two are close together. Same goes for the second, third and fourth place battle we see in the main screen. With Des Moines just edging away ever so slightly in front of them. They really need to stop focusing on battling each other and catching up to Des Moines if they want to make inroads on him. But it is hard to do as a racing driver. You just want that position sometimes, and especially in these sprint races. Smeed's just lurking a bit in the background. He's in sort of the position where if something happens between the two cars ahead of him, he could potentially take advantage. He's far enough back that he could react to any crashes and not pick up any damage himself, but also close enough that he could take advantage of side-by-side contact if it so on happens later on in the race. 58 minutes to go in the race. As the 808 of Sander Vale also applying a ton of pressure behind through Cheetah. They went and into Ingaf. No position changing in the top three, but those two, the two Ferraris, very, very close together. They run down the start-finish straight. Schickerman and Calvaletto as well close together. A lot of battling going on track at the minute. But Vale not quite close enough to make the move on his Ferrari body. The same and equal cars, but whether or not that they are set up differently, as we do see this time. Ooh, almost Vale there on the outside line through Ingef. It looked like that he was on for a move, but not quite. Camera angles are a little bit tricky from time to time, as he is trying to push up. But it could also be interesting with those cars, whether or not that they take tires or fuel only in this race. It is a big question up and down the field. Main screen on board with Nick Vargas, looking from the rear wing back to Sim Smeeds directly ahead of him. Maybe if Alderman is out there listening, we could probably hope that he would come in for a quick interview and he could tell us what happened in his battling earlier on. If we are very, very lucky and he's listening, but doubtfully. We'll have to wait and see about that. Looks like that the Kyalami Vale battle could potentially lose them so much time that Caesar could catch up to them, as he's not that far behind and have closed a little bit in the last couple of laps. But look how close they are now. Into Cheetah we go. It does look like Vale is very good into the Crocodiles, but whether or not he can get this done, he is challenging and forcing Kyalami to a tighter line through Ingef, so this could be the move already. In a drag position down the start-finish straight. Drag race between Sander Vale and Kyalami into Crawford we go. This could be the move from Vale, almost contacting down the main straight. I think that was a little bit of a bump under braking as Vale goes wide, and the slight contact again. Look how that allowed Caesar back into that freeway battle. So Vale forcing his way a little bit through there into the lead of the AM class. But very close, side by side now into sunset for these two drivers. Risky place to go side by side, but Kyalami is sticking it on the outside there of Sander Vale, and Sears very, very much so in that battle now as well. Covering each other off into the clubhouse, and now Sears looks to be actually on for a move into the S's. As Vale seems to be getting away from them a little bit because they have to go side by side through the S's. Sears set that up perfectly, selling Kyalami there a little bit of the dummy as they go into the Leo Cup now. Again, on inside-outside lines. Caesar very good there, getting earlier on the throttle. A little bit of a wobble there for both of the cars when they went on there, but that Ferrari seems to be a little bit more planted once they got going. So position maintained for Kyalami so far. Sears looking for the outside move into the Crocodiles as Vale is laughing ahead of them as he's getting away from all of this battling. This could allow for Greyes back into this duel if they continue driving like they are at the moment. Well, as CS goes into the pits early on in the race, that could be strategical to get the damage repaired and just take a little bit of fuel, and then he could go to the end. That is also a valid strategy option, and getting that clean air, which means that he will not have to battle anyone that could potentially gain him on the long side in this race. Back to the top three battling. They seem to have settled in a little bit. and they are keeping pace with Rick De Moyne in the lead of the race. Not much between them lap time wise, as they do the run down the back straight once again into Mine Shaft we go. Beautiful livery on those Mode 11 cars. I must say I do like the red and white livery of the cars a little bit better than the green and yellow, but it's still very, very stunning to look at. DMA livery, of course, that is. I think that's a guy named Steve that makes these liveries. That he'll do it for a few bucks if you want a beautiful looking cars out there. So try and look him up if you want truly custom designs for your racing vehicles. Coming into Crawford, still the gaps between them seems to have settled a bit. Maybe it's a strategy for Vargas not pushing too much at this point, hoping that Van Liebenstein can catch up to De Moyne, as he actually did gain a few tenths that last time around. Gap have dropped to 2.1 seconds between De Moyne and Van Liebenstein. So they are slowly catching up. Even further now, under 2 seconds between them. But let's see through the second sector of the track. Maybe De Moyne made a little bit of a mistake, just a tiny one that caused him to lose a few tenths. Or Van Liebenstein have finally gotten the breathing room so he can focus fully on catching up to De Moyne, as he's actually gapping Vargas at the minute. The gap between Van Liebenstein and Vargas are almost up to a full second. So Vargas might have seen the best of his tires, whereas Van Liebenstein might have had a little bit extra in them. Gaps not changing at all through the second sector. Very close between them indeed. On the run through cheat, as we follow Rick De Moyne, as we can see, he's really pushing it to the limits. He knows how tight it is behind. He can see that relative as well, dropping a tiny little bit. But let's see across the start finish line. Rick De Moyne goes across. Now Samuel Van Liebenstein. No real changes in the gaps there. Nick Vargas comes into the pits very, very early on for Vargas as well, trying to get out of traffic. That might be the strategy that Vargas is going for as well. Definitely too early to be taking tires, so Vargas into the pits, and he'll be running in clean air. Interesting to see how that will pan out later in the race for him, which means that Van Liebenstein now have nothing to worry about behind, really, as Smeets are almost 2 seconds behind him. And Rick De Moyne leading by 1.7. The gap is coming down by a few tenths. I've been in that situation myself in the lead, where it's dropping by those small amounts, and you are really getting a little bit stressed about when you're looking at the relatives and they're coming down, trying to push more and more and more, and that's when you might be taking a little bit of unnecessary risk that could potentially lose even more time. But De Moyne, of course, a seasoned driver, so he'll be keeping full focus on the task at hand, which is just hitting those apexes at the minute and keeping the gap as big as possible for as long as possible. Further down the field, Greyes in 9th gained a position from the pit stop of Nick Vargas, and then CS just behind him as well, as he's catching up to Kyalami, who might will have to go into another massive defensive drive, as we saw him with a lot of success with early on in this race. As Greyes are catching up to the rear of Kyalami now, with just 50 minutes remaining. Track temperature have risen by a single degree, same with the ambient wind have dropped to a single kilometer per hour, so not a lot of that roaming around the track. In the virtual South Africa, of course, do remember to ask us questions or comments in the YouTube chat if you have anything that you would like us to answer for you out there. Greyes through Ingef. That gap is coming right down. He could potentially be within battling range within the next few laps. So I think we'll stay a little bit with this dueling duo, or soon to be dueling duo, we should say, of Kyalami and Greyes. With Vale not too far ahead either, just about 7 tenths more. Greyes have a little bit of a mistake through Crawthorne that could have lost him a little bit of time. As he runs wide again, he is definitely pushing that car to the absolute maximum of his abilities. A little bit of a four-wheel slide there into Sunset. Clubhouse we go now. I wonder how Kiss is doing further back in the field as well. We haven't seen him for a while in this race. As Greyers have dropped 1.4 seconds behind here, we have Slots Kiss in 10th position in the race, still going strong. To be fair, not losing a lot every lap to the driver's head, but just that little bit. His, I think, first race with us here in the Simsport Racing International community. Good to see new and fresh drivers on track. It of course takes a little bit if you're used to racing other communities or just online in general, then this is a completely different experience going into a league racing. You're up against drivers who prepare a lot for the races all of a sudden. And the pace differences are massive between this and regular online racing. So if you're out there interested in getting into a little bit of league racing yourself, look us up on the Sim Grid and sign up for some of our championships. We have the Sunday and Tuesday GT3 sprint races, a few endurance events coming up as well. And of course the LMU championship, though that is quite full at the minute. Want to sign up to those, find us on Discord as well to see all the rules and get involved with the community. Very, very helpful guys indeed. If there's ever anything you need answers to, or if you ever have questions that you need answers to, everyone seems very happy to bid in and answer all the questions that you would possibly have. And a good fun vibe as well in there. There's both a meme channel and the general tone is quite nice, I should say, in the Discord servers. A Soul's Kiss comes through Sunset. Once again, so difficult corner. Always found that a bit tricky to drive myself. I just thought I saw some indicators on the car, but it didn't look like it in the end. That could just have been the brake lights illuminating for just a brief moment. As he is still running strong. The gap have increased again between Des Moines and Van Liebenstein, the two Hondas up in the front. So Des Moines starting to push off, and Liebenstein could potentially have made a very, very minor mistake that cost him that about half a second, 6/10 to Des Moines that he have pulled away in the last few laps or so. But I wonder what strategy that Soul's Kiss will be going for. This is also one of the things from usual open lobby racing to league racing. Usually we have pit stops and they don't in open lobby racing. So getting that right and figuring out what to do in races like this can be a little bit difficult, because logic would say that you would come in halfway in races like this and take the necessary fuel, but usually strategy-wise it's either halfway through the race and you start with half fuel and then you take the tires as well, because you might as well when you're in the pits, or you go as deep as possible and then only take the fuel that you need. I was a bit surprised to see Vargas in early on. Usually he does try different strategies to the what I would call the main strategies, but he usually prefers to go deep into the races. Though this time he seemed to be running the shorter strategy. And maybe that will pay out for him in later on, as he is running without traffic. He will be catching up to Soul's Kiss at some point in the race. Maybe, maybe not. There's still 6 seconds between them. And Soul still needs to take a pit stop as Rick Des Moines comes into the pits halfway through the race. No, not halfway through the race, still 45 minutes to go. So that's an interesting time to take the pit. He was not catching up to traffic or anything, and I think this is slightly too early to take tires, so he might just be fueling in the pits. If he doesn't have any damage on the car, of course, then he would repair that, but I don't think so from Rick Des Moines. He is stopped for quite a while though. He might actually be taking tires. Don't have a stopwatch nearby me, but that seems to be a very long pit stop if it's just for fuel. Let's see where he comes out in relation to Nick Vargas, who comes onto the start-finish straight now. I actually think Vargas will overtake Rick De Moine and take the, let's call it the virtual lead of the race as De Moine just gets going now. I think that De Moine took tires there, as Vargas have a commanding virtual lead in the race. Of course, it is Von Diemenstein who actually leads the race, but on pit sequence it is now Nick Vargas potentially in front. But again, that will all depend on Von Diemenstein. We did see Von Diemenstein being a little bit quicker than Vargas before the pits. So Von Diemenstein could potentially be race leader after the pit stop round. But let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. But also, it also seems a little bit short for a tire stop for De Moine. Maybe he just fueled the car strangely at the start of the race and then took a longer pit stop to fuel. 7 seconds between De Moine and Vargas. Could still have been tires though, it is hard to say really, but I wish we had some graphics on that. Further down the field, or further up the field we should say, as we jump from 10th to 8th now with Greyes, who have cut back up to Kyalami to engage in the battle for 7th. Vale and Calvaletto as well, if we get them in the small screen, they are also duking it out for 5th, just ahead of these two guys. As we go there, the two battle groups going on, all of them are Ferraris. If we have all of the Ferraris in the race lined up from 5th to 10th at the minute. Quite interesting that they all lined up like that in the standings. But main screen, that would be Greyes and Kyalami, as Vargas have made his way through KISS. Main screen will be Greyes and Kyalami for 7th position, and the smaller screen will be Sander Vale and Nicola Calvaletto for 5th position in the race. Sander Vale in the quite easy recognizable green car. Calvaletto in the black. The blue car would be Kyalami, and the orange and purple would be Greyes. Good that they have chosen different colors on the cars. That makes it quite a bit easier to commentate on instead of the sometimes we see the all black cars. That's usually because they have custom liveries that we haven't gotten into our livery folders. So yeah, that's why we, especially in endurance races, we see a lot of all black cars. But Greyes, nevertheless, he have dropped a little bit back again to Kyalami. Same for Vale, not right in the rear end of Calvaletto anymore. As the gap have opened up there a bit as well. It is difficult to stay close to another car on this track because especially the cheetah corner and the S's, where you need maximum downforce, and how the cars get close together through Leo Cup before stretching back out again with the harmonica effect coming out of that under acceleration. But into crawl forward we go. None of them really close, riding on board with Greyes now. One of my favorite cams. When we go on board we can really see how the drivers are working the cars. The GT3 should be very smooth on the steering, as we can just follow it here. No major inputs. A little bit of a slide there, but nicely saved. Not super aggressive on that slide save there from Greyes. Good for the tires as well. A little bit of someone put the wheels into the gravel there, coming into Sunset. And Greyes could also have taken a little bit of a tighter line there to gain a 10th or 2. But he is still trying to catch up. Kyalami, interestingly as well, catching up big on Sander Vale as well. So we could potentially end up with a 4-way battle here for 5th position. If we cross our fingers and pray enough for that, then maybe the racing gods will smile upon us. 40 minutes to go, 37 minutes and 30 seconds will be the halfway point of the race. And therefore the most optimum time to come into the pits if you want to change your tires. And a fair assumption would be that most drivers that come in from about now and until the 33-minute mark, they will be changing tires in the pits. So let's see if anyone takes it this time around. Someone does. That's Kyalami that comes into the pits. Potentially a tire change. I would assume that he's doing so, as I've just mentioned. we are in that window where that would be why you would come into the pits now. Elsewise, I didn't see any strategical advantages to that. He could, of course, have just fueled for half of the race and then taken half fuel again, but that would be a little bit unlogical in general. But let's see what happens later on, as the racing is still going strong. Through Barbecue on board with Greer still. Calvaletto and Vale just hovering about that 1 second gap between them. Just gone down to 8/10 last sector between those two, so they are closing in ever so slightly from Vale. But it does seem like that Vale is struggling a little bit more from when we come through Sunset and then all the way up until Leo Cup. We have seen Vale extremely quick though through the third sector of the track this evening of racing, or early morning virtually, of course, at the virtual Kyalami track, as we are still only quarter to 8 in the morning virtually. Vale right on the tail of Calvaletto. Into the mine shaft we go before the Crocodiles have cut about a 10th there through the middle sector. So let's see, through the Crocodiles we go. We can see that gap is visually also coming down between them. Early on the throttle into Cheetah and the mighty Sausage of Death. We haven't seen any Sausage Deaths so far this race. There might have been one early on that we didn't catch on the stream. Grias coming in as well. That potentially, or that tells me that he's going for tires as well as fuel. Same as Kyalami, who came out 12th in the race. Sander Vale getting closer and closer, actually close enough next time around maybe for the attack on Calvaletto. Sander Vale, a very seasoned driver that we have seen from I would say all the way back to before the original merger. Ooh, big mistake there from Vale, losing all of the time that he gained, pushing a little bit too hard to stay close to Calvaletto. But I was just about to say that he has been racing so long that he will probably know or try the strategy of going long, conserving the tires as much as possible and then taking minimum amounts of fuel in the pits. I think that'd be a very usual Vale strategy, and something that I wouldn't put past him to try at least. Calvaletto might be doing the same, as he didn't come in last time around, which was the most optimum time for him. Von Liebenstein into the pits from the race lead as well. That indicates tire changes for the Honda car. Let's see where he comes out in relation to Nick Vargas and Rick Des Moines. He goes for the stop now. I still don't have a timer, so we could, if someone counts to 30 seconds out there in the background, then we could see if it's tires or not. Nick Vargas we are following in the big screen, and Von Liebenstein stationary in the pits in the small. This will determine whether or not that Vargas actually have the race lead or not. A lot of drivers into the pits, Calvaletto and Vale as well. A little bit unexpected from Vale to come into the pits, to be honest, at this point in the race. But in Vargas, I do think Vargas will take virtual lead of the race. Or snatch it, well, maintain virtual lead of the race, as Von Liebenstein is just moving now. He's definitely going past, but it did look like that Von Liebenstein took tires. I highly doubt that that Vargas did in his pit stop. So now it will be the battle between the worn tires on the Ferrari and the fresher tires on the two Hondas, I think. Von Liebenstein actually, I think, yeah, he does come out well ahead of his Honda mate of Rick Des Moines. So running order would be Nick Vargas, Samuel Von Liebenstein, and then Rick Des Moines in third virtually in the race, with still 3 drivers yet to pit. That'll be Sam Smeets, who potentially could gain big if he doesn't take the tires when he come in. I think Sam Smeets will be going deep in this race. No, he is slowing down, looks like, for the pits. He's coming in this time. I think I'm jinxing it every time I talk about pit stops. The Sim Smeets is into the pits. So this could actually be interesting. Sim Smeets could potentially come out in second position in this race if everything goes to plan, as we did see him being roughly same pace as Nick Vargas earlier on. Smeets in the small frame, but if he takes the tires as well, he will definitely be out behind Rick Des Moines. That'll be interesting to find out, which also puts van der Linden into the lead of the race. At least until he gets his pit stop done. I do think Vargas will stay ahead of Sim Smeets no matter what, but where Smeets come out in relation to the two Hondas are quite important. I think Smeets is also taking tires because he has been stopped for quite a while. He is moving now, but I don't think it's enough to stay ahead of any of the two Hondas, as he'll still be on the acceleration. Small picture there, let's see, yeah, there goes Rick De Moyne as well. So he comes out behind the two Hondas, does Sam Smeets. But yes, Schickerman and van der Linden, they could be going deep on their strategies and just taking the fuel. I think I should stop saying that I think, because I know nothing, as I have proven so far, of strategy in this race, at least of what the drivers are thinking, but I do believe that they will be going somewhat deep. Audi not the best on tires though, but the Porsche could definitely do it. Meanwhile, Kyalami, and that would be, where are we down there? That's Kyalami, and is that Kiss behind? No, that's ahead of him. He's duking with Greyes. That's Kyalami and Greyes. Greyes actually making up that position in the pits. It looks like Kyalami losing out big in the pits. And Sias actually gaining a lot in those pit stop strategies. He's all the way up next to Calvaletto at mid, and both of the two drivers that I thought would be going deep came into the pits. Of course they did. So no one going super deep in the race. Two last drivers come into the pits, and then we'll get a true look at the running order once everyone passes through the first sector next time around. Kyalami on well, not under pressure, that would be Grace, but applying the pressure to Greyes for 10th in the race. Less than a second between them. Same goes for the battle for 7th between the McLaren of Sias and Calvaletto. I do believe that Sias did manage to get some damage repairs in the pits as well. Van der Linden is moving and back out on the track up into well, he's coming out on track now. Looks like he's gotten himself into 5th position after the pit stop round. Or maintains 5th, and actually gained quite a bit of time, it looked like, on the cars ahead of him. Schickerman out directly behind him, so they seem to be keeping up with each other. So this is turning out to be a freeway battle, as they are catching up to Calvaletto, who must have had some sort of mistake, as he dropped all the way back to these guys, as Sias are now alone in 7th with Sander Vale potentially catching up. Maybe we'll get a look of what happened to Calvaletto there, maybe not that long ago. Meanwhile, Kyalami definitely getting closer and closer, edging himself up there to Greyes into Barbecue. Way different profile when you're on board with the drivers than on the TV cameras. So difficult to drive this track. Quite fun when you get into the rhythm, I must say, and easy to stay in the rhythm, but once you... Ooh, big crash there, Kyalami spinning on the curb through Sunset, makes contact with the wall. That will put an end to his challenge for 10th at least, but I don't think it's enough damage to put him completely out of this race yet, as he does keep going, but he went a little bit too hot there over the curb. He went wide and then coming back onto the track, getting that, touching the curb, and the suspension sort of compresses underneath you, and that bounces the car when that happens, and that's when he lost control and got it into a wall. Very unfortunate for the 777 Ferrari there of Kyalami, as he will have a lot of catching up to do now to catch back up to the cars ahead. Here's a replay, I think, of what happened to Calvaletto. Under pressure from the McLaren behind, but just touching that curb and getting this classic mistake. I think we've all tried that once or twice, as we see the cars going by, making that contact with the wall that could compromise his aerodynamics for the rest of the race, as he is under severe pressure from behind, as we're speaking from Greyes. And Greyes, he will definitely try and take advantage of that slightly trashed Ferrari up ahead of him. So we have Ferrari leading the race, and then Ferraris again from 8th to 12th. Strong drive from Vargas, but the gap is coming down between himself and Van Liebenstein. Rick De Moyne also catching up to those drivers up ahead, so this could potentially become a very, very fun battle in the closing minutes of the race between Vargas, Van Liebenstein and Rick De Moyne. As we are following Kyalami still, trying to see if there's something with the car. There's not a lot of visual damage on the car, but that sometimes doesn't tell the full story. As he did hit that wall with a little bit of force, not as much as Calvaletto though. But sometimes with the damage it's more of a mental thing than the actual pace difference in the car. You can drive around not knowing that you have damage and not feeling it, but as soon as you see the damage, then potentially it's something different on board here. Let's see how it went into the curve, and I think he just gets a little bit too early on the throttle and then runs wide. I think it's because he has a little bit of turning while some of the suspension is compressed, and then a wheel on the grass as well. That was quite a big and nasty hit, but a reasonable angle though in terms of potential damage. Not the worst way to hit a wall. Kyalami is still running, of course, and he'll just try to take as many points as possible, because he is in that championship battle with Sander Vale and still third in the aim battle on track, or at least third in aim in this race. But it does look like Sander Vale will need to get into some sort of trouble if he's not to win the aim class this evening. Further up the field, the gap is coming down rapidly, to be honest, between Van Liebenstein and Vargas. Already down to 2.5. De Moyne not catching up as much as Van Liebenstein, but he is closing the gap to Vargas as well, as they go on to the start-finish straight. That Honda, it just looks like a strange racing car when you look at it, but truly a more sporty car than the looks of the Honda. Truly a beautiful design, both on the road legal NSX, but also the aero package used for GT3. Makes it look a little bit of a big and a strange car, but very, very nice to drive, and a happy face on that car as well. Legend goes that Chris Hill used to drive the Honda a lot back in the days, with a few mates of his, but we will actually never know, unless if someone goes back onto the YouTube archives and sees some of the older endurance races. Truly a beautiful car though that they used to race, and good competitive pace of the drivers. I still don't know why they chose the Honda, to be honest, although that originally the 101 team was also Honda based for unknown reasons. Maybe the same reasons, to be honest. Hard to say. But truly a fun car to drive. On board with Samuel van Liebenstein. Gap down to underneath 2 seconds. De Moyne still catching up, but still not by as much as van Liebenstein. As at this point it is van Liebenstein's race to lose, really, as he seems to have so much more pace than Nick Vargas. And defending this for, it would be about 20 minutes Vargas would have to defend from a Van Liebenstein once he catches up. Will be a huge task for Vargas. And if he manages to keep that defense on, I do think that would be one of the best drives that we have ever seen. But let's wait. We do know that Honda is very, very rough on the tires. And the assumption is that they took tires for the Hondas in the pits, and Vargas didn't. We still don't know exactly, but if we're lucky they will answer it in the either Discord at some point or in the Discord ACC chat after the race. Not that we'll be hanging around for long, of course, because it is a Formula 1 racing evening, where they'll be racing at Miami, which will make no sense. I'm talking about this for those that will be watching it tomorrow, this race. So let's not talk too much about that. Sander Vale and Caesar, they are close together. I think that Caesar actually have made the overtake on Sander Vale, or have Vale caught up. Nevertheless, they are very, very close together and locked in battle. in these very moments. The 808 Ferrari and the 240 McLaren, as they are coming up to Sunset Vale, just doing the usual thing of just showing yourself a little bit there on the inside, trying to get some focus away from the actual corner coming up ahead when you do that from the driver ahead, but CS doesn't seem to be too worried about that. Through the S's they go. A place that can be super tricky at this part of the race. The different lines into the blind Leo Cup, one of my favorite corners in all of sim racing, because it is blind when you come in and the track have this sort of a kink just before, so actually getting the car placed correctly is so very difficult, and drivers of different levels would be taking that corner very, very differently, as we have seen in endurance racing over the years, and that have caused issues for some drivers. But Sander Vale right underneath the wing of CS as they go through Cheetah. Vale does choose to go wide and put the wheels into the grass. It seems like every single time through there. Do remember that Vale, he is in the running or leading the AIM championship, so he could put that on the line if he goes for a too silly move. But then again, there's also the overall championship that we haven't looked too much on so far, but Vale could potentially be thinking about that more than anything at the minute, to prove that he doesn't belong in the AM class, as he's putting up a mighty drive this evening. Vale that have in previous years been running well in the GT4 championships as well, when we used to run those. A driver of many skills and can drive many different racing cars, as he has proven a few times. The Mode 11 driver. Bottom right hand of the screen, that will be Calvaletto and Grias, where Grias have actually managed to make the move on Calvaletto. We know that Calvaletto is running with some damage on that car after visiting Barry R in the very corner that they're going through at the minute, but whether or not that Calvaletto can keep up with Grias will be interesting at this point, or Calvaletto will just concede and say he'll take the position, as they're not in the same class. So for the Pro Championship it doesn't matter too much for Calvaletto. Of course overall it does, but I don't think that Calvaletto is too fussed about that, to be honest. Meanwhile, Whale and Sears, I think they are having quite an interesting battle. This is why you go with sim racing, to have these moments when you are racing each other so closely. It doesn't matter too much that you're in different classes. I never cared about that personally when I used to run. It's all about having the fun on track. And I definitely think that Vale is, or Sears is thinking about that as well. This is one of the things that makes sim racing so very interesting. Also up in the front of the field, Nick Vargas have come under severe pressure, and as expected at around the 20-minute mark. So Nick Vargas under the pressure from Samuel von Liebenstein. But do remember, the tires in that Honda, they will wear out at some point, and he'll drop pace later on, but I think he will have tire advantage for the rest of the race. So the longer Vargas can defend this, the better his chances will be to maintain the lead. Vargas needs to sort of hope that he slows up von Liebenstein so much that Rick De Moyne comes into the picture as well, and can maybe take a little bit of focus away from von Liebenstein in the battle for first. Also Smiths could potentially catch up to Vargas as well, coming the end of this race. Down the start-finish straight we go. Vargas will probably have to brake a little bit earlier than von Liebenstein behind. 100-meter board for them both. Ooh, von Liebenstein losing it, pushing it too hard. Good news for Vargas. I don't think von Liebenstein lost the position there to Rick De Moyne. But no, he didn't, but they are very close. But this could potentially save Vargas quite a bit, as now von Liebenstein will have to think a little bit defensively about Rick De Moyne, as his tires will be slightly overheated at this point. So that was maybe the lifeline that Nick Vargas needed. Drive through for Sim Smiths. Track limits that will be, so he will not be catching up to the top three. Calvet comes into the pits probably to repair damage. Bottom right hand side of the screen. overtaking attempt from a Sander Vale. Everything is happening at once in this race, it seems like. But Vale definitely looking very, very offensive. Trying it into Barbecue. That could go so terribly wrong. Slight touch there. Maybe I think that they avoided that as they're side by side on the run up to Sunset. Vale tries the inside outside. Tucks in behind. Through Sunset we go. The 808 car applying all of the pressure on the 240 of CS. Just ahead of him. Through Clubhouse they went this time. Both of them keeping it on track. A lot of pressure on both of them at this point. 18.5 minutes to go. A lot of things. Calvaletto have retired from the race. Chooses not to take the points at the end. If you're out there, Calvaletto, listening to YouTube, you could come in and talk to us in the from the waiting room. Meanwhile, Vale all over the back of CS as we are running down through Mineshaft side by side into the Crocodiles. Who's braver on the brakes? Looks like Vale is slightly braver, but going wide, not getting that done correctly, and CS maintains position ahead of Sander Vale. Into the Cheetah we go. Only 10 cars remaining in the race, so big points on the table for all of the drivers that finish this one. But Vale definitely looking racy at the minute with CS. Further up the field, the gap is coming down once again from Van Liebenstein to Nick Vargas, but he'll drag Rick Des Moines with him this time around. Looks like that Simsport retired after saving the drive-through as well. Not choosing to pick up the points. Little bit unfortunate strategy there for Simsport, which means both of the Aston Martins have retired from this race. So we are down to 5 Ferraris, half of the field made up by the Ferraris, 2 Hondas, 1 Audi, 1 Porsche and 1 McLaren. The 1 McLaren in frame right now, just ahead of the Ferrari of Sander Vale. Coming on the run through Clubhouse into the S as we go once again. Time is running a little bit low for Vale. He will still have a lot of it on the board though, but this could potentially go very, very deep in this race. Also shout out to Salt's Kiss for staying in this race, as he'll be picking up massive points just for finishing in 4th in class. But Vale on the attack behind CS. Cs are coming into to the Crocodiles. This is where we've seen Vale being very quick all race on the run from Leo Cup and all the way through Ingap. You have seen very, very, very fast, both taking maximum risk there through Cheetah, which puts him very, very close to the rear end of Caesars coming onto the start-finish straight. Meanwhile, battle for the lead is also heating up quite a bit. Gap up there, also less than 1 second between Vargas and Van Liebenstein once again, with Des Moines directly behind those drivers. Vale not getting it done this time. CS are doing a smart thing, showing every time that he's trail braking into turn 1, so Vale will have to expect that under braking that CS will be moving in towards the apex there if he tries for a move into turn 1 at some point. With the big dive, that could potentially just be the strategy for CS, just to showcase that he's doing that, to sort of try and close off any opportunities. Vale going way wide there through Sunset, but getting that exit speed quite nicely into the Clubhouse. Still right underneath the wing. Small picture now, it's the battle for the top 3. Vargas still leading for Liebenstein 2nd and Rick Des Moines in 3rd. Moines not quite in frame, but he is right there, trust me on that one. Meanwhile, Vale through Leo Cup, we have seen him quick here before, getting good traction, a little bit better than the McLaren, it does look like. The run through Mineshaft and into the Crocodiles. We have seen it so many times, Vale being so strong here. Tucks in behind, takes that a slightly different line, using more of the track. That could potentially be the reasoning for his success through there. Vargas under severe pressure as well from Van Liebenstein. They have just rounded Clubhouse and will be heading into the S's as we are speaking. Meanwhile, Vale losing a little bit through Ingef. They're not quite close enough to try for it into Crawthorne this time around. Meanwhile, the leaders are coming through Leo Cup. Freeway battle for the lead. Though Des Moines have dropped back a little bit from this duel. Maybe he have pushed the tires a little bit too much and have lost some grip there. But Vargas and von Liebenstein against each other in the main screen. Now we've swapped the screens around to battle for the lead in the main frame, and then battle for 6th position in the small right-hand bottom part of the screen. Liebenstein and Vargas, Ferrari versus Honda big screen, and Ferrari versus McLaren in the small screen. Look at this, von Liebenstein looks to actually be gaining, coming down the start-finish straight. Vargas forced to go defensive, leaves the room on the outside. Von Liebenstein trying it. He will be trying the old switcheroo through the sweeps, but not quite close enough to make that move. Into barbecue they go. Von Liebenstein looks to be able to carry a lot more speed through the corners. Meanwhile, Vale also all over the back of Caesar as they are heading through Cheetah. But Vale losing out a little bit there, going in a little bit too aggressively. But he'll probably catch back up later on as von Liebenstein all over the back of Nick Vargas as they head into the S's. Von Liebenstein turning in a little bit earlier there than Vargas, and might have had to go off throttle and adjust the line that he was on. That's one of the difficult parts of tracing another car. If you used to be quicker into a corner, then you're also used to turning in a little bit earlier, and that could maybe put him off a little bit when they're coming into those. But now the run into the Crocodiles through Mineshaft we go. Von Liebenstein, big overspeed. What will Nick Vargas do? And von Liebenstein just backs out of that. Vargas goes wide. Von Liebenstein overtakes, takes the lead of the race. Rick Des Moines catching up to the battle as well. But von Liebenstein gets the job done due to a little bit of a mistake there from Vargas. Rick Des Moines showing himself on the back of Vargas as they will be running into turn 1 very close together. Battle for second now. The thing that we are focusing on between Rick Des Moines and Nick Vargas. Von Liebenstein could potentially be running away with this one now, as he'll have nothing to think about except for pulling away from these two drivers. I don't think Vargas have the tires to keep up with von Liebenstein at this point. But will he have enough to defend from Rick Des Moines and hold on to second place? Also, championship lead will very likely switch after this race with this result in favor of von Liebenstein heading into the final round at COTA. This could be a massive championship decider when we go to a circuit of the Americas. I am personally looking forward to that one a lot, as the way that these drivers are racing at the minute. Rick Des Moines applying the pressure, but I think Des Moines a little bit more conservative driving style than von Liebenstein. He might not be as aggressive, trying to stay as close to Vargas as von Liebenstein did. But let's see what happens. Those worn tires on Vargas' car. A little bit of slide there from Rick Des Moines. He could have had the run into the Crocodiles this time around if he would have maintained traction on that Honda. But the Crocodiles we go where Vargas had that braking mistake last time. This time looks good though. Des Moines tucking in behind through Cheetah. This is where the tires will make a huge difference if the bravery matches the tire wear. That's of course the main thing, because that is one of those corners where you're on the absolute limits of the car, and you can very easily get a slide on underneath if you are not completely in sync with your tires through Cheetah, and that's why those tires will be a huge advantage there. But Rick Des Moines closing in down the start-finish straight on the outside of Nick Vargas. We haven't seen that work too many times today, but he will try the better exit, but not good enough to try it into barbecue, it looks like. Does close up a lot under braking through barbecue we go. The run up into Sunset. He could potentially try the alternate line and set it up into Clubhouse, but Very, very risky to do so. He just chooses to stay in behind Vargas, but he can go a lot tighter and keep a lot more speed than Vargas through Sunset, it looks like. Through the clubhouse. There used to be there's a clubhouse in that corner, and that's why it's got that name. Then you can probably figure out why the crocodiles are called the crocodiles. And Cheetah is called Cheetah. Actually, we don't know for sure, but it would be fun if there are actually crocodiles living in that corner and cheetahs in the other one. Highly doubtfully, but that's just some South African animals, I expect. Rick Des Moines really putting that pressure on. Again, with those fresher tires, I'm a little bit surprised that they haven't done earlier. Sebastian or Samuel von Liebenstein already with the 2-second lead to Nick Vargas. So he made the most out of that mistake from Vargas and have pulled away to somewhat safety at this point. 8.5 minutes to go through Cheetah we go. Look at that, Rick Des Moines pushing a little bit too much, almost losing the car through Cheetah, but just keeps control of that Honda NSX. Beautifully drive there, beautiful car control, but losing it definitely cost him a bit of time and potentially the opportunity down into to Crawford. At this moment, I actually don't think that Rick Des Moines have what it takes to get through. Vargas doesn't look like that he have the overspeed at the right places of the track, or the bravery to stay close enough to Vargas. He might also just be gauging up Vargas' actual pace at the minute to figure out Vargas' true speed through the corner, so we can really take advantage of how quick he is on the tires. But the tires in that Honda is also getting to be a little bit more worn at this point, and the more laps that we get into this, the smaller the advantage Rick Des Moines will have as a tire wear is bigger on that Honda as he goes wide again, really pushing that Honda VTEC to the limits, or we should say just the NSX. It's not the VTEC part exactly that he's pushing by running wide there, but definitely pushing that NSX to the absolute maximum of the aerodynamics and the grip in the tires. Through Leo Cup, down the back straight. Can somewhat tell in the frames that there's a little bit of a drop when you come from Leo Cup and into Mineshaft. Around the corner we go. Nicer this time around through Cheetah. Rick Des Moines really up underneath the wing. I don't think he's quite close enough as he runs wide through Ingef, trying to set it up this time around, but I don't think he was close enough anyway to get the move done into Crawford. We have seen Vargas being very wise into Crawford and covering off the inside line when someone comes to attack him there. So Des Moines might have to think of something different. I think maybe into the Crocodiles would be one of the better places to try the move, as you can dive out very, very late and send it from quite far back because you have such a wide approach into the corner, or the corner is so wide on entry, just as we'll see in about 2 weeks' time when we go racing at Circuit of the Americas. Those wide entries to the corners really makes up for opportunities in terms of overtaking. As Vargas seems to actually pull it off for second, but Des Moines is no slouch. He can definitely get this done. Looking on the outside into Leo Cup, forcing Vargas to stay narrow. Getting the run now, does Des Moines, and looks like he got the throttle down, but that's the difficult part with that kink, that you have to be so careful not to turn the car too much when you're on the throttle. If you do so, you will lose the rear, but if you don't turn it enough, you'll lose the extra meters and lose a potential directional place. I don't know who we are on board with in the bottom right-hand screen. It is Sander Vale we are on board with, as he have closed back up to Caesar as well, as the move was potentially on there after Cheetah into Ingef, but Vargas fends it off once again. This time trying to break the toe down the start-finish straight, as Rick Des Moines does have the overspeed. Vargas all the way to the inside, defending it. Rick Des Moines on the outside. Vargas have defended this one several times before, but Des Moines definitely a better turnaround there, trying for the old switchback. Gets a little bit of a drift on. Let's see into Barbecue, not going for it here, wisely staying behind, not risking the car at this point. They do have quite a big gap down to Van der Linden behind, so a little bit of Archibald losing a few seconds is not going to be the whole or matter too much, but a big enough crash and he will catch up, or big enough contact and he will catch up. You can just see how Des Moines is everywhere at the minute on the back of Vargas. Vargas maybe even just parking the bus there a little bit. Des Moines weaving a lot to show himself in the mirrors. He does know how close he is, and Vargas under a lot of pressure this time. Des Moines reasonable run there through the S's, but nowhere to go with it, as he had to let off the throttle to avoid running into the back of Vargas there. Des Moines with the much tighter line this time. He will have to run down the back straight into mineshaft we go. This will be the question. Can Vargas keep his cool? He is showing that he's going to keep the inside line through the crocodiles as we go. Des Moines trying the switcheroo. Oh, getting close there under braking. Vargas really parking it there on the apex, and Des Moines being cut out a little bit by that. Getting a small slide on. Good battling between the two drivers, veterans of the game. They know exactly what to do. 3 minutes to go, 2 more laps it will be around here for these two drivers, with Samuel van Liebenstein pulling away in the front as they are duking it out so intensely between them. Des Moines definitely with a lot more pace in the car at the minute than Vargas. Even though that we are saying that the advantage gets smaller and smaller for Vargas, I think Vargas' tires must be shafted at this point if he didn't change them. It's not the most difficult thing to get tires to last for a minute and or an hour and 15 minutes around here, but with the amount of battling that Vargas have done, he must have taken a lot of life out of those Pirelli rubbers. Des Moines really, we can see almost a wheels drift there behind, trying to push everything to catch back up to Vargas and get that final attempt to go for the second place in the race. He definitely have the speed, he definitely have the pace, but that's the thing that we have been talking about so many times over the course of the season. One thing is to be quicker than the car ahead of you, another thing is to get the pass done, and that is what Rick Des Moines seems to be struggling with at the minute on Nick Vargas. As Vargas are doing a massive defensive job. Potentially he could have held back von Liebenstein as well if he didn't make that outbraking mistake into the crocodiles. But he is keeping on to second at the minute. 1 more lap to go. Race leader crossing the line about now as he will start the final lap of the race for von Liebenstein. About 1 minute 40, 41, 42 race pace around here, so no question that this will be the final lap for the race leaders. For all of the drivers in the race. Solskjaer will be the final driver to take the white flag and start his final lap, and a good start to his sim racing career as well. Not being lapped in their first league race with us is quite the achievement. We've seen that many times with drivers managing to get lapped in their first race around here, because the competition can be so fearsome from time to time, as we have seen today. Massively good race strategy coming into play as well. I love it when it does that. There's a huge battle further down the field as well between Sears, Vale and Greyes, but this is where it's all at the minute for second position. Nick Vargas and Rick Des Moines. I think it will be I think it is somewhat decided now. If Des Moines doesn't get a huge run out of Leo Cup, then I think that Vargas does manage to defend this one home. If Vargas can just keep it cool through the crocodiles and Cheetah, then I think it is decided now between the two of them, as von Liebenstein comes into Cheetah for the final time and will only have 1 more corner to round out before his race will be over. Looks like Vargas will maintain second. Von Liebenstein wins. Drag race between Vargas and Des Moines, but Vargas finishing second, Des Moines in third. Let's quickly jump down to the battle for 7th, or for 6th we should say, between Sears, Vale and Greyes. All of them very close together. Just about a second separates the 3 drivers in total. Let's see what happens. I don't think a lot of drivers will be hanging around long after the race, as Formula 1 will be starting in about half an hour's time. But Vale in 7th, CS in 6th. I think CF does have the gap to maintain it, but one last nerve-wracking time through Chile. That could be the decider in this freeway battle as they come around. Through everyone looks safe. So Van der Linden with a great comeback drive finishes in 4th, Schickerman 5th. CS seems to be holding on for 6th with Sander Vale in 8th, Kyalami in 9th, and then Sol's Kiss in 10th position. It looks like great race this time around. We will quickly just stay for a little bit of time if anyone comes in for an interview, because this was a massive race. We won't be staying here for too long, as both Chris and I will be heading to our living rooms and watch some Formula 1 racing in not so long. But great battling throughout the field. Everyone who took part, of course, welcome in the interview waiting room. Tons of battling. COTA will be the decider in all championships, though Vale puts himself in a very good position for the aims. Von Liebstein will, I think, take the lead of the pros coming into COTA, but not by a lot. With Vargas finishing in 2nd, then all Vargas needs to do is to win that race to take the championship lead, I believe, or championship away from Von Liebstein. Crazy good race this evening. Remember to tune in 2 weeks' time for the season finale. Tune in on Tuesday for the 4th round of the Tuesday Championship, season 9th of the main sprint championship, as that will be at Sanford. Surely an interesting race that will be, and Wednesday next week for the 2nd round of the 2nd season of the LMU Championship. That will be at Monza. I've been Oliver Anderson, Mr. One of Oliver, and behind the cameras, as always, have been Grandpa Chris Hill. See you shortly. What did you do now? Ah, perfect. Why not?